Mark Twain, America's Literary Giant. Part 1. The Early Years, 1835 to 1847. The birth of Samuel Clemens on November 30, 1835, coincided with the appearance of Halley's Comet, a celestial event that would bookend his life in a remarkable coincidence, as he would pass away during its next appearance in 1910. Born in the tiny village of Florida, Missouri, Sam was a premature baby who survived against the odds, though his early fragility hardly suggested the literary giant he would become. The America of 1835 was a nation in transition. Andrew Jackson's presidency had just ended, leaving a country transformed by expanding democracy and growing tensions over slavery. The Clemens family, like many others, found themselves navigating these changing times. John Marshall Clemens, Sam's father, was a Virginia-born lawyer who had moved west seeking better opportunities. Jane Lambton Clemens, his mother, came from Kentucky frontier stock and brought with her a rich tradition of storytelling and oral history. The family's early years were marked by a pattern of moves and financial struggles that would later inform young Sam's writing. Their first home in Florida, Missouri, was a two-room rented shanty, hardly befitting John Clemens's aspirations as a lawyer and land speculator. Despite their modest circumstances, the household was rich in intellectual stimulation. Jane Clemens was known for her quick wit and ability to mimic local characters, a talent her son would inherit and develop to great effect. Sam's early childhood was marked by the typical adventures and mishaps of a frontier boy. He survived several near-death experiences, including severe measles and scarlet fever, events that his mother claimed strengthened his constitution but also fed his developing sense of life's precariousness. His older siblings Orion, Pamela, Margaret, and Benjamin played crucial roles in his early development, with Orion particularly influencing his future career path. The move to Hannibal in 1839 proved pivotal. This Mississippi River port town, which would later be immortalized as St. Petersburg in Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, offered young Sam his first view of the broader world. Hannibal in the 1840s was a bustling frontier town of about 1,000 residents, where steamboats arrived daily carrying goods and passengers from as far away as New Orleans and St. Paul. The town's social structure provided Sam with his first exposure to the complexities of American society. The wealthy lived in hilltop mansions, while poor whites and enslaved blacks occupied the lower areas near the river. This stark stratification would later influence his writing on social inequality and racism. The young Sam witnessed slave auctions in Hannibal's town square, images that would haunt him throughout his life and emerge in his later writings. Part 2. Education and Early Work, 1847 to 1857. The death of John Clemens in March 1847 marked the end of Sam's formal childhood. The family's financial situation, already precarious, became desperate. Jane Clemens took in boarders, while her children sought work to help support the family. Sam, not yet 12, left school to become a printer's apprentice at the Missouri Courier. His apprenticeship under Joseph Ament proved fortuitous. The printing office served as an informal school, where young Sam learned not only the technical aspects of typesetting but also absorbed the basics of writing and editing. He spent his free moments reading exchange newspapers from around the country, expanding his worldview and developing his literary tastes. The Hannibal Journal, owned by his brother Orion, became his first creative outlet. Here, Sam began experimenting with different writing styles, contributing everything from straight news reports to humorous sketches. His early attempts at humor often involved practical jokes and hoaxes, a style that would later evolve into his trademark satirical wit. During these years, Sam's education continued informally through his voracious reading. The Hannibal Library, which he later credited as his university, provided access to works by Shakespeare, Dickens, and other classical authors. He developed a particular fondness for travel literature and adventure stories, genres that would later influence his own writing. Part 3. The Mississippi Years, 1857 to 1861. Sam's apprenticeship as a river pilot under Horace Bixby represented a significant investment, $500 in tuition, equivalent to roughly $15,000 today. The training was rigorous and comprehensive, requiring him to memorize every aspect of the river's 2,000-mile length. Each bend, sandbar, and snag that could spell disaster for an unwary pilot. The steamboat era represented the height of technological achievement in pre-Civil War America. Pilots were the elite of river society, earning as much as $250 per month, a remarkable salary for the time. The profession demanded not only technical skill but also quick thinking and sound judgment, as pilots were responsible for both vessel and passengers. During these years, Sam absorbed the rich culture of the river. He learned the complex language of steamboatmen, collected countless stories and characters, and developed his keen eye for human nature. His interactions with passengers from all walks of life, wealthy planters, card sharks, slaves, and immigrants, provided material that would later fill numerous books and stories. Part 4. The Civil War and Western Adventures, 1861 to 1866. The outbreak of the Civil War in 1861 brought river commerce to a standstill, abruptly ending Clemens's career as a pilot. His brief military experience consisted of 2 weeks in a Confederate militia unit, the Marion Rangers, an episode he would later satirize in The Private History of a Campaign That Failed. His desertion from this unit, while potentially controversial, reflected the divided loyalties of many border state residents. The war years saw Clemens embarking on a series of adventures that would transform him from Samuel Clemens, river pilot, to Mark Twain, literary figure. His journey west with his brother Orion, newly appointed as Secretary of the Nevada Territory, provided material for Roughing It, his second major book. The overland stagecoach journey took them through frontier towns, Mormon settlements, and Native American territories, exposing Clemens to the raw reality of Western expansion. In Nevada, Clemens tried his hand at silver mining in the Comstock Lode, experiencing the frenzied atmosphere of a mining boom. His attempts at prospecting proved unsuccessful, but the characters and situations he encountered would later populate his stories. The mining camps of the 1860s were lawless places where fortune hunters, con men, and desperate characters mingled, providing rich material for his later writing. His transition to journalism began at the Virginia City Territorial Enterprise, where editor Joseph Goodman recognized his talent. Here, Clemens developed his characteristic style of humorous social commentary. His first use of the pen name Mark Twain appeared in this newspaper in 1863, though he had experimented with other pseudonyms, including Josh and Thomas Jefferson Snodgrass. Part 5. The Emerging Author, 1866 to 1875. The publication of The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County in 1865 marked Clemens's entrance into the national literary scene. The story's success opened doors in the Eastern literary establishment, leading to opportunities as a travel correspondent. His assignment to cover the voyage of the Quaker City to Europe and the Holy Land resulted in The Innocents Abroad, 1869, his first major book success. During this period, Clemens developed his skills as a lecturer, pioneering a form of stand-up comedy that would influence American humor for generations. His first major lecture tour in 1866 established his reputation as a platform performer. He crafted a distinctive style, using precise timing, deadpan delivery, and apparently spontaneous asides that were actually carefully rehearsed. His courtship of Olivia Langdon represented both a personal and professional turning point. Livy, as she was known, came from a wealthy and cultured Elmira, New York family. Their correspondence during their courtship reveals Clemens's determination to transform himself from a rough-hewn Westerner into a respectable literary figure. Their marriage in 1870 provided him with both emotional stability and social connections that would prove valuable to his career. The early years of their marriage saw Clemens struggling to balance his literary ambitions with financial security. The couple moved to Buffalo, New York, where Clemens became part owner of the Buffalo Express newspaper. However, a series of personal tragedies, including the death of their first child and Livy's poor health, led them to seek a fresh start in Hartford, Connecticut. Part 6. Literary Fame and Fortune, 1876 to 1890. The Hartford years represented the peak of Twain's creative and commercial success. The family's elaborate Victorian mansion, costing $40,000 to build, approximately $1 million in today's currency, became a symbol of his achievement. Here, in a third-floor billiard room that served as his study, he wrote many of his most famous works. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, 1876, drew directly from his childhood experiences, transforming the real-life characters and events of Hannibal into an idealized portrait of American boyhood. The book's success established a new genre of children's literature that respected the intelligence and complexity of young readers. The character of Tom Sawyer, based partly on Clemens himself and partly on his friends, became an archetype of the American boy. The writing of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, 1884, spanned several years and represented a more ambitious literary achievement. The novel's use of first-person narration in vernacular English was revolutionary, breaking with literary conventions of the time. Huck's moral struggle over helping the runaway slave Jim, despite believing he would be damned for doing so, created one of American literature's most powerful statements against racism and social injustice. During this period, Twain's publishing ventures expanded beyond his own writing. Charles L. Webster and Company, his publishing house, achieved remarkable success with Ulysses S. Grant's memoirs, which earned Grant's widow $450,000 in royalties. However, poor business decisions, including investment in the Page typesetting machine, would later lead to financial disaster. Part 7. Personal Tragedies and Later Works, 1890 to 1910. The 1890s marked a turning point in Twain's life and work. Financial difficulties forced the family to close their Hartford home and move to Europe, where living expenses were lower. The death of his daughter Susie from meningitis in 1896 while he was abroad on a worldwide lecture tour devastated him. This loss, followed by the death of his wife Olivia in 1904, contributed to his increasingly dark worldview. His later works reflected this darker perspective. The Mysterious Stranger, written in several versions between 1897 and 1908, presented a cynical view of humanity through the story of Satan's visits to an Austrian village. What is man? 1906 expressed his deterministic philosophy, arguing that human beings are machines responding to external stimuli rather than exercising free will. However, this period also saw Twain emerge as a powerful voice of social criticism. His anti-imperialist essays, particularly regarding the Philippine-American War, demonstrated his willingness to challenge popular opinion. To the Person Sitting in Darkness, 1901, and King Leopold's Soliloquy, 1905, represented scathing critiques of European and American colonialism. Part 8. Legacy and Modern Significance. Mark Twain's influence on American literature and culture extends far beyond his own time. His innovative use of vernacular language transformed American writing, legitimizing regional dialects and colloquial speech as literary tools. This linguistic revolution influenced writers from Ernest Hemingway to William Faulkner and continues to shape contemporary American literature. His impact on American humor has been equally profound. Twain developed a distinctively American comic voice, combining frontier tall tales with sophisticated social satire. His influence can be traced through generations of American humorists, from Will Rogers to contemporary comedians and satirists. The social criticism embedded in his work remains relevant to modern discussions of race, class, and power. Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, despite periodic controversies over its language, continues to be recognized as a powerful anti-racist statement. His critiques of imperialism and social injustice resonate with contemporary debates about American foreign policy and social inequality. Modern scholarship has increasingly focused on Twain's later, darker writings, finding in them prescient critiques of modernity and human nature. His autobiography, published in its complete form between 2010 and 2015 according to his instructions that it be held for 100 years after his death, has revealed new dimensions of his thought and character. Twain's influence extends beyond literature into broader American culture. His carefully crafted public persona, the man in the white suit, with the unruly hair and ever-present cigar, created a template for the modern celebrity author. His witty aphorisms are constantly quoted, sometimes misquoted, and often adapted to contemporary situations. As America continues to grapple with issues of race, power, and national identity, Twain's insights remain remarkably relevant. His combination of humor and social criticism, his ability to entertain while provoking serious thought, and his fundamental humanism continue to speak to modern readers. In the end, Mark Twain's greatest achievement may be his role in creating a distinctively American voice in world literature. He demonstrated that American experiences and American English could produce literature of the highest order, paving the way for the great flowering of American writing in the 20th century. His works continue to be read, studied, and debated, confirming his status as not just America's greatest humorist, but one of its most profound and influential writers. His legacy reminds us that great literature can both entertain and challenge, that humor can serve as a vehicle for serious social criticism, and that authentic American voices can achieve universal resonance. In an era of global cultural exchange and social transformation, Twain's work continues to offer insights into the human condition and the complexities of social progress.